over there.
Do I need to use the mic, or can you hear me without it? I'll tell you what, if my voice starts to go, then I'll resort to the microphone.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. My name is Alan Ames, and this is my show, Alan Ames Thinks He's Funny. The morning version. This is PG-13. That's all you get this time in the morning, especially here.
Right.
So is everybody comfortable? You sure? I don't know, it seems a little short and chubby in here. Is it just me? So, about a year and a half ago, I started doing comedy at a bar down in Providence, and then I developed an hour program that I actually bring to senior centers, sometimes the library, or anywhere that wants to invite me in. Patty saw me do a show at the Raynham Senior Center back in November, and for some reason she invited me to come here today, so here I am. Now, since I started doing comedy, people do ask me, so, are you funny? Are you funny? So I say the same thing every time. Well, I must be funny because every time I step out of the shower, my wife laughs. That's as risque as my jokes get, so everybody just relax. It doesn't get any worse than that.
Bummer. Father isn't here, you know.
Oh, I met him out there, so I've already been talked to.
Oh.
I have one more joke before I go into like a bio and tell you a little bit about myself and what we're going to do for the next 45 minutes to an hour. This is a really old joke, not mine, but I love it. I've given it new life, and it goes like this. A man lives in elderly housing, and he's about to turn 80. His friends want to play a practical joke on him, so they hire a professional woman to visit him on the day of his 80th birthday. So that day arrives, it's a knock on the door, and a beautiful young woman walks in, and she exclaims enthusiastically, she says, "I am here to bring you super sex." So the man thinks for a second, and then he says to her, "Thank you very much, young lady. I think I'll have the soup." So what about me? So I am, anybody know what the phrase OFD stands for in the Boston area? Thank you. I am originally from Dorchester, OFD. I am OFD. There's actually bumper stickers that say that, OFD, right? So I grew up in the triple deckers. Small yards, small front yards, little alleyway separating the houses, right? That's why we played in the street. Some great games like stickball, halfball, throwing the ball against the steps, all the things with the jump ropes and all like that, right? That's what we did. But my family moved to the town of Stoughton as I was entering my junior year of high school. And that's where I met my boss, my wife, I'm sorry. She would kill me if she knew I said that. So my wife and I have been married 49 years. We are high school honeys. Thank you. You guys are awesome. You clapped right on cue. No, we did. We graduated Stoughton High together in 1970. UMass Amherst together in 74. Got married a year later. 2 years later, the first of the three. We have 2 sons and a daughter. They're all in their 40s already. 6 grandchildren. Our granddaughter, our red-haired, freckle-faced Molly, she just turned 16. The others are all boys younger than her, so as far as she's concerned, she's in charge. Yeah, I did have a career, but I retired. I actually have a retirement job. I'll talk about that briefly. My background is food service management. I was at Papagino's for many years. After that, I transitioned over to Showcase Cinemas as a concessions manager. But when I turned 60 12 years ago, I retired from my field, and I am doing something 5 mornings a week now that I love. I've been doing it for 12 years. I'm a chauffeur. In the mornings for a limousine service, or you might call it a black car service, mostly airport stuff. I do it 5 mornings a week. And I keep very busy. I still play tennis. I don't play singles anymore. I've had too many knee surgeries. But I play very competitive doubles. And I belong to the Y in my town of Foxborough, which is where my wife and I live now. And I work out at the gym there, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a week because, you know, it takes a lot of work to keep this physique in such great shape. But what I'd like to do is, I want to take you with me right now to Dorchester, 1960. Everybody with me? We're going to go back to 1960, Dorchester. Obviously, things were a lot different back then. I was 8 in 1960, and when you're a kid, you just accept things as they are without questioning, even though you might not have understood them. One thing I didn't understand was that we had a bowl of plastic fruit. Plastic fruit, we did. So I don't know if that was a thing back then or as decoration, but we didn't even keep it out. We kept it in the pantry. We kept it in the pantry until company came. When company came, we brought it out. And that was my job. Because back then you actually had company. You know, there were no cell phones back then. You know, people would drive around and they go, oh, let's go visit the Ameses. The doorbell would ring, my father would yell, Alan, go get the bowl of plastic fruit. I'd go get it, I'd dust it off, put it on the table. The people would come up 3 flights of stairs, because we lived on the top floor. They'd sit down and they'd go, oh, you put up your bowl of plastic fruit for us. Yes, we regard you very highly, so you get the bowl of plastic fruit. But there must be something about plastic back then, because we had a couch covered in plastic. You know, like a fitted sheet on a bed, the first sheet is fitted? It was like a fitted sheet of plastic that covered the couch, and it never came off. Even when company came over, they would have to sit on the couch on the plastic, which isn't too uncomfortable until summertime, because there was no air conditioning back then. If you had a fan, you were lucky. And of course, you know, if you sweat, you slip around and all like that. And I wondered what would be so bad if I actually touched the fabric. And every once in a while, I'd look around and make sure that my parents weren't looking, and I'd touch the fabric, I'd put my hand under the plastic, and of course, nothing ever happened. But another thing that makes it so different then as it is today. My mother was having a birthday, and my father was all excited because he thought he got her the greatest present. For my mother's birthday, he got her a vacuum cleaner. If I ever got my wife a household appliance for her birthday, the cause of death on the coroner's report would be strangulation by electrical cord. But he did. So, you know, she came up the stairs. We had the vacuum cleaner all set up. And she opened the door, we turned the vacuum cleaner on, and we yelled, "Happy birthday!" And she'd look at it. Because she just came home from commuting into Boston, into Post Office Square. Took a bus and a train and a bus to get back. She did what was called dictaphone. Her bosses would record or dictate into a machine, and then she'd listen to it later and type whatever they said. So she had a whole day of that, right? took the bus and the train in, train the bus back. She opened the door, happy birthday, here's your vacuum cleaner. And she's like, thanks. And we say, okay, now go back in the house and what's for dinner? But that's an example of how different things are today. Now, if my father were alive today, he would be 104. And he was a storyteller and a jokester. And I get a lot of him in me when I do my routines and my jokes. And I think that's why I started doing comedy as a bucket list thing a year and a half ago. And when they retired to Brockton, to an apartment complex. And in the nice weather, he would sit outside in the back on the lawn, and the little kids of all ethnicities would sit like they were sitting like around a campfire, and my father would just tell story after story after story. And he loved doing that. And I think that's why I love doing this. So I remember a poem that he had. The poem was about pay toilets. There were pay toilets in Boston growing up. In the retail stores or in public places, you needed a coin, like a dime or something. And we had those shoes, they had the little slot on the top of it.
Penny loafers.
Penny loafers, that's right. So, I would like to honor my father's memory, and I'm going to share this little poem with you. And it goes like this. Here I sit, broken-hearted, paid a dime and only farted. And he used to say that a lot, like anywhere, like in a supermarket, he'd just come up with that. Now, my father also knew just what to say to me if I did something stupid or said something stupid or did something just that was wrong. He knew exactly what to say to me to make me feel better. An example, one day I was carrying a plate of food to the kitchen table. Remember, I was still back in Dorchester in 1960. And the food all slid right off onto the floor. So I froze. He looked at me, I looked at him. He said, Alan, I can't believe you were the fastest sperm. See, I'm always afraid to tell a joke because I don't know how it's going to go. Usually it goes okay. In the town of Medfield, I did a show at their senior center there. And I told that joke, and this is, it's like watching a horror movie. You're not sure if you want to watch or not. Instead of a laugh, I got like a gasp. A gasp, because I said the word sperms. It's a big deal. Yeah, I got a gasp. In fact, one lady reached for her inhaler. Oh, good times, good times. So, this is St. Anne's Sociable Seniors. Seniors for a reason. We got older. We did. I'm going to pose some questions to you. They're yes or no answers. You can answer yes or no. You don't have to answer, just think of these things, right? See how many of these things you can say yes to. Do you remember making popcorn with a Jiffy Pop? Do you remember having your film developed at a photomat? The one little booth? Do you have a box of old pictures, black and white, generations ago with people that you don't know anymore? Do you have a box of the old Encyclopedia Britannicas that are missing XYZ? Do you remember the Encyclopedia Britannica? Okay. Yeah. Do you remember S&H green stamps? Anybody still have some you didn't redeem in? Okay, so here's the thing. Those actually are worth something because people collect those. If you have full books of S&H grain stamps and you go on like Craigslist, people will actually pay like $10 or $15 because people collect like everything. So you'd be surprised. So if you answered yes and no you did. Took quite a few of those and I did as well. here we are. We're seniors. There's no way around it. We are seniors.
Good, you can make the age higher and we wouldn't be seniors.
Make the what?
The age higher, make it from 60 to 80.
Oh, I know. So, I'm 72, and I'm in reasonably good shape. I'm only on 4 medications in the morning, but every 5 years it seems to increase by 1. And the thing that's bothering me a little bit right now, it's not a big deal, but I know that at some point I'm gonna need a hearing aid. Not the end of the world. I already had 1 hearing test, and I'm like right on the line, right at the, at the bottom of the normal to you need a hearing aid thing, and my wife is after me all the time, you need a hearing aid, go get into the test, go get into the test. So, but I'm stubborn. I'm resisting, I really don't want to, but here's an example of what my hearing is doing to me now. You ready for this? My wife and I watching the news the other night. I'm half watching the news, half playing on my phone. And I heard the news report say something about a woman being shot in her anus. It's not a bad word. So I said to my wife, I said, she got shot in her anus. How is that even possible? Was she like tying her shoe or whatever? So my wife says, you're an idiot. That's the first thing she said. Then she said, she got shot in her anus.
That is.
I've been dyeing my hair black for decades, and a couple of years ago I let it go to this gray like it is right now. And yeah, I'm fine. I don't care that it's turned, gray. I'm fine with it. I'll enjoy it for as long as I have it. But one thing I noticed as soon as my hair went gray is that everybody started calling me sir. And holding doors for me. Everybody's nice to me now. Just because I let my hair go gray. Oh.
Perk.
When I was younger, when I was like 14 or 15, to be cool like the other guys, used to keep a condom in my wallet. When I was 14 or 15, like I was ever gonna use it, right? So, we'd be with the guys and we'd go to a party or a dance or something, and, we were tough at 14 and 15. Did you bring it? Yeah. It's in my wallet. Yep, got it. Yep, I'm ready. I'm always packing, right? There's no condoms in my wallet anymore. But in the same exact spot where I kept my condoms, I now have lactate pills. Lactate pills, just in case. I also had a tattoo when I was younger of a battleship. Just a little battleship right here. If you've seen the cartoons on Facebook or different places about us seniors that had a tattoo when we were younger, and now what's happened to the tattoo? It's drooping, it's distorting, and all like that. So my battleship has slowly been sinking. Right? But I take it a step further, because over the last year and a half, I have lost some weight. I've become a little bit more compact. And I've noticed that the ship is slowly starting to come up again. Very slowly, it's starting to come up again. So my plan is to continue to watch what I eat and exercise, and I'm hoping to get the battleship back to the surface. So if people ask me, hey, you look great, are you dieting? My answer would be, well, I don't know if you'd call it dieting, it's more of a salvage operation. I'm gonna to talk about colonoscopies now, so I'll be gentle. I have had 3 colonoscopies, something that we get to do when we get older. They've all been okay, but the first 2 colonoscopies I had to drink that yucky, citrusy smelling, tasting stuff. And honestly, that's the worst part of it is the prep, because the actual procedure is like no problem, right? Because you're kind of like out anyway. So I was getting ready for my 3rd one, which happened several months ago. And my wife had just had one, and she didn't have to drink that yucky stuff because there are some alternatives now. She did the one that's the Miralax mixed with Gatorade.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And you can drink it. It's not disgusting when you drink it. But just remember that the effect is to get cleaned out. Right? That's the, My son-in-law had a colonoscopy, and his prep was a series of pills with water that he took that had the same effect. So I had no problem with that. And now I'm on a 3-year schedule instead of a 5-year schedule. I had, some polyps, but they were fine. But I know the prep that I'm going to use next time. Since I'm lactose intolerant, I'm just going to eat a bunch of ice cream the night before. Why not? In fact, I can imagine the gastroenterologist.
Oh, God.
Right after the procedure, I can imagine him saying to me, "Alan, you did a really good job with your prep. Which method did you use?" I used Ben & Jerry's. Now, most people have some apprehension about any kind of a medical procedure, including a colonoscopy. You worry, will the results be good? I have a problem with the anesthesia? Will everything be all right? Not me. I was looking forward to my colonoscopy because it was an opportunity for me to try out new material. I had the greatest joke in my head for months that I couldn't wait to tell right before the procedure started. So I'm in the procedure room. I'm on my side. I have the intravenous hooked up. The doctors are assembling, and what is it? Propanol? Is that the drug of choice that they use now? Yeah. I love that stuff because you just float away and then you're back like nothing happened, right? So I said to the anesthesiologist, I'll say that right one of these days, I said to her, "Let me know right before you put the drug in that will make me sleep." She said, "Okay, why?" I said, "I have a question I have to ask Dr. Kumar." This is how warped I am. I'm sorry. I don't care about the procedure. I just want to tell my joke. That's all I want to do. Right? So everyone's assembled, and she says to me, "Okay, well, if you have a question, now's your time, because I'm going to inject and you're going to..." I said, "Okay." I said, "Dr. Kumar." He goes, "Yes, Mr. Ames. I have a question." He goes, "Okay, what is it?" I said, "If I hear someone say, 'Oh, what an asshole,' will that be a compliment or an insult?" Now, I heard laughter, and then the next thing I woke up in the recovery room. So I guess it paid off. So now I get to tell that story. I know, I was very proud of myself for coming up with that. I'm going to play part of a little song here because I took harmonica lessons recently. This is actually a professional harmonica. Oh, good, you did actually recognize the tune. So I am a proud graduate of the Betty Crocker School of Music. Not only can I kind of play the harmonica, I also can make a mean bund cake. Is that bund? Bund? It's DT, right? It's DT. Bund? Is it silent D, silent T? Yeah, well, whatever it is. That's fine. So I have been told that I am as much a humorist as I am a comedian. And there is a distinction, I had to look it up. So a humorist is someone who tells entertaining stories that may or may not have a punchline. They just might be entertaining. In fact, if you look up humorist, the first person that they talk about is Mark Twain. Samuel Clemens was famously known for being a humorist, told entertaining stories, not necessarily jokes, but like that. So just to make sure I can still just tell jokes, because the jokes that I've told you so far have been embedded in the story and part of a routine. I'm just going to share with you some random jokes before I move on. So these are some of my favorites. Two lifelong drinking buddies from Southie. One of them's in the hospital, kind of serious, and he says to his friend who's at his bedside, he says, Johnny, if I die, will you do me a favor and pour a bottle of my favorite Irish whiskey over my grave? He says, sure, Tommy, I'll do that. But would you mind if I strained it through my kidneys first? Two lifelong buddies, but this time it's all about baseball. They played baseball growing up, Red Sox fans, season tickets, go to spring training, the whole bit. One of them does pass, and about a week later, the other one's in bed, and he sees a vision, his friend. He says, Mike, is that you? Yeah, that's me. You're in heaven, right? He says, yes, I'm in heaven. Of course I'm in heaven. Well, tell me this. Is there baseball in heaven? And he goes, well, good news and bad news. Okay, well, what's the good news? Well, the good news is, yes, there is baseball in heaven. He goes, well, what's the bad news? Bad news is, you're pitching tomorrow. Okay, this is the riskiest joke I have, so. I don't do political humor, but I do have to reference our former U.S. Senator, John Kerry. No comments. I don't do political humor. John Kerry also ran for president years ago. So he married Teresa Hines, the ketchup fortune heiress and all like that. When they were first dating, he actually had the nerve to ask her, how many positions do you know? And she said, we have 57 varieties. There's two guys on the table there, do not look at them. They're friends of mine. Don't even make eye contact with them. They're retired chauffeurs. They follow me around and watch my shows. So, our oldest son, Kenny, lives in Washington, D.C. He went to George Washington as an undergrad, never moved home, one of those deals. So my wife and I have been down there quite a bit over the years. We've seen all the Smithsonians, all of them. Well, they opened a spy museum down there not too long ago. So last time we were there, we wanted to go check it out. We wanted to go see the spy museum. Could never find it. You guys like Gatorade? No. It's got a lot of antioxidants in it.
My grandkids like it. I think it tastes horrible.
But I got to tell you something. It might not be a popular view, but I'm actually pro-oxidant. There's got to be a balance. You don't want to be out of oxidants, do you?
No.
Okay, so our boys are very competitive. We were all together. We have 2 sons and a daughter. And one day we're all together and our boys are arguing. You know, they're like bragging, I make this much of a bonus, I have this much potential, you know, like all of this. So I had to get involved and I said, hey, you know, I make 6 figures too. Unfortunately, 2 of them are after the decimal point. See, clean jokes are okay. All right, and then they were arguing, kind of, about how smart they are because they both have master's degrees. And you know how you graduate with honors like cum laude, summa cum laude, magna this, and all that stuff. So I had to get involved because I wanted to break that up too. I said, hey, I graduated with honors also, UMass Amherst, class of '74. So they go, Dad, what honors did you graduate with? I said, I graduated someone cum get me. I haven't been in the frame once. Not that it matters. I know, I keep drifting away. As long as it records, I can hear. Oh, let's see, what else are we gonna do here? We have, we have the 2 sisters. One's 6, one's 4. They're in their bathroom one day, looking at the scale that's on the ground. The 6-year-old says to her 4-year-old sister, she says, don't ever step on that. Every time Mommy steps on that, it makes her cry. Do you remember the A&P supermarket chain?
Yeah.
They went out of business, but they had a chance.
Yeah.
They almost merged with Stop and Shop, and they should have. And I wish they had, because then they would have been called Stop and Pee. What time is it? All right. I want to. Is that the right time? 12:35?
Yeah.
Okay, good. See, the reason I ask is because there's something different I want to do at the end. I want to tell a couple of stories at the end.
Oh, okay. 11:35.
Yes, I'm sorry, right?
Yeah.
11:35. And I know you're having lunch at noon. Is it in here, or do you have to go somewhere?
No, it's
here.
right here.
It's here.
Okay. Anything good? Fine.
You're welcome to stay.
No,
You're
no,
welcome
no,
to stay.
no.
You're gonna stay.
No, my friends and I are going out for lunch.
Oh, you are? Oh, they
You
will
looked
do
at
it.
them. I told you, don't make eye
I
contact
know,
with
but I
them.
just did.
I want to talk a little bit about things that bother me. And there's quite a few things that bother me, and they could be anything from things that people say, to commercials, to signs that I see in different places. And I'm sharing these with you in the hopes that maybe you can help fix some of these things with me. Not all of them, but I think we can fix some of them, especially things that people say. The first thing that bothers me is when somebody say that someone threw them a party, or they retired, or they're getting some honor, and they say, I'm speechless. And then they give a speech. It doesn't work that way. If you say you're speechless, then sit down. If you want to give a speech, you can say, I'm speechful, and then you can talk. But even worse than that is people that are in that situation and they go, I'm at a loss for words. No, you're not. Because I know what words are, and they just came out of your mouth. Right? If you can't, and I swear, if I heard somebody put those 2 things together, if they ever said, I'm speechless, I'm at a loss for words, I think my head would just blow up. I can't, and what's even worse is when people they say something, and then they follow it up by saying, I'm not gonna lie. The traffic report the other day, the woman giving the traffic report said, gee, the expressway is doing remarkably well right now, I'm not gonna lie. Thank you for that. I'm pretty sure if you're giving the news or the weather or the traffic, that you're supposed to be telling the truth. Right? I can't stand that. I hate that expression, I'm not gonna lie. Because that means that everything else you say is a lie. Right? So if you encounter any people that do that, and then there are people that I would like to slap around a little bit, and this is my own term. I call them ofteners. What's an oftener? It's somebody who pronounces the letter T in the word often. It's not often, it's often. You're not in England. Oh, how often are you going on a fox hunt? Oh, I go quite often. And this is the reason why. When you do laundry, you put detergent in, right? You want everything to feel nice. What do you put in?
Softener.
Softener. Not softener. Softener. And then we have this suicidal tuna fish, Charlie the tuna. You're all wondering, how did he go from that to Charlie the tuna? Because this is how my mind works. I can't stand that commercial because it makes no sense to me. However, in American pop culture, the whole Charlie the tuna thing is very ingrained in our pop culture. It went on for decades. So we have this tuna that wears the blue beret and the thick black glasses. And the reason that he's doing this is because he wants to appear cool, and hip, so that they catch him, right? Has anybody ever told Charlie the tuna what happens? Because if he gets caught, a little piece of him is going to end up in about 800 little cans of tuna fish, mixed with mayonnaise, going into a brown paper bag for some kid in Dorchester, 8 years old, that takes a tuna sandwich for lunch every day, which was me. There was a football coach, was it Bill Parcells, I think? During an interview, he got upset about something, and he said, "Who do you think I am, Charlie the tuna?" No, really. And they called him the tuna from then on. Is that right?
Yeah, you're right.
Right here in Raynham, because I know all about this controversy, how to pronounce the town. Raynham, 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 Raynham. So I'm very careful I say Raynham. Another thing that bothers me. My wife and I and some friends went to your restaurant, Barrels and Boards. Love it there. We live in Foxborough, it's not that far of a ride. Now, you women wouldn't know this, but for men, if you've been there, you want to go use the urinal. There's a TV screen right above the urinal. Oh, I am not making this up. There's a TV screen, at our age, we're going to use the urinal. We don't need distractions. So I'm at the urinal, and there's a woman newscaster on. She's like giving the news for a few minutes.
Oh, great.
And I swear she did this. You guys that live here, you have to do something about this. You have to do something about this.
I'll mention it. It's not even related. Joe.
You're gonna have to check out the men's room.
All right, you know what else bothers me? Because I'm not done with the subject. I'm guessing that some of you have given up your landline and you only have cell phones now,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Well, I am.
It's okay. So for those of you that still have a landline, keep it.
That's right.
Keep your landline, because if you're talking on the phone and you're getting really angry, You can't slam the phone down anymore. You can't. And this is what it would look like if you just, if you still have a landline. You'd be talking on the phone, the wire would be connected, right? You'd go, what do you mean my part isn't gonna be ready for 2 more months? You promised it me before. Well, let me tell you what I think about that.
Bang.
Bang. Right? Whether it be the phone on the wall or on the counter, you'd probably hurt your hand because these things were really rugged. If you just have cell phones, this is what that would look like. Oh, I knew I was going to do that.
But I don't want to go up there.
If you just have a cell phone, this is how that conversation goes. What do you mean my part isn't going to be ready for a couple months? You promised it to me before. Well, let me tell you what I think about that. It doesn't work. There are a couple of highway signs around that bother me. If you are coming up Route 95 in Connecticut from New York, you're about 30 miles up. There's actually a sign on the side of the road that says, correctional facility, no stopping. Is this a problem? Are people driving 65 miles an hour up Interstate 95, pulling over to pick up hitchhikers in orange uniforms? They really, we really had to have a sign for that? Well, I think instead of spending money on the sign, they should just fix the hole in the fence. It doesn't make any sense. Like you have a couple of convicts that are, they're planning their escape. Oh, we're gonna break out, we're gonna run through the trees. We'll get to the tree line, we'll go to the highway, and the other guy goes, can't do that anymore, there's a sign. You can't stop anymore. Right? I don't get it. I don't get it. And then, Big Y has the rotisserie chicken, which is like $7 or $6 or something like that. I go to the Big Y that's in Walpole. So I went one afternoon, and the parking lot was pretty busy. So I'm driving around looking for a spot, and I find a spot, and I start to pull in, but there's a sign. The sign says exactly this. It says, parking for customers with children. So I pulled in. I get out of the car, and this woman yells at me. She goes, where are your children? Well, our son lives up by the New Hampshire border. My daughter lives in Easton. Our other son lives in Washington, D.C. I could tell by the look on her face that the sign needs to be a little bit more clear. See, these are the things I'm talking about, things that bother me. Now, I usually end with a piece of advice and a joke, but I am going to give you the piece of advice, but I'm also a humorist, I'm also a storyteller. So I've saved a couple of stories for the end. So here's my advice to everybody. If somebody came up to you and asked you for a piece of advice with all the experience that you have, you'd probably come up with something. So from me to you, this is my piece of advice. Never go through a car wash when you have to pee. It never ends well. I have a story because the Celtics won the championship last night, there's going to be a victory parade in downtown Boston. It's been several years since the last one was,
2008.
no, for the Patriots had one. When Brady won the Super Bowl for the 6th time.
Right.
Well, as I mentioned, I'm a chauffeur in the mornings, and the morning of that Patriots victory parade, I had to pick up a woman at the 90 Hotel on Tremont Street, which is right on the parade route, if you're not familiar with Common and all like that. Well, it took me forever just to get there, and there's this little alley, because I couldn't pick up the front door because they had those metal fencing barriers, and people like 5, 6, 10 people deep on each side of the road. But there was a little alley that I was able to pull into, and it's getting close to the time that the parade was going to start. It starts at Government Center and comes down Tremont Street. So I'm texting this woman who is going to the airport to catch a British Air flight. She's going back to England. Now, her trip was arranged months in ahead, so she knew nothing about New England Patriots and the parade was happening that day and all like that. And I'm texting with her and I'm telling her, once this parade starts, the officer at the top of the alleyway is going to close this gate and we're going to be stuck here for over an hour. So I'm talking to the policeman and the woman's trying to get back. So she finally gets in the car and, you know, she was a middle-aged businesswoman from England, very prim and proper, very straight-laced and all like that. So I start, you know, coming up the alleyway so I can take a left on Tremont. The policeman is just about to close the gate when he sees me. So he says, all right, slow down. So I'm driving a black Cadillac. Had my high beams on, had the emergency flashes on. So I get to the top of the street, I'm about to take a left, and the officer says, go slow. Okay. So I make the turn, people on both sides of us. I look in my rearview mirror. The duck parade is about 100 feet behind me. And what they do is that they move about 100 feet and then they stop so people can cheer and do all this stuff. You ever been to one of these parades? But you know about them, right? They're crazy. There's tens of thousands of people there. Well, I'm driving a black Cadillac and I have a businesswoman in the back and people are clapping for us. They're cheering for us. They're taking pictures and videos. And the woman, there was a transformation that happened in my back seat. From a middle-aged businesswoman, she became a 16-year-old high school cheerleader.
Oh my God.
Because she has now rolled down her window, and she's now waving at everybody. She's waving at everybody, right? And people are yelling, who is she, who is she? Right? And the noise was deafening, right? They think that we're the lead car of the parade. So they're yelling, who is she, who is she? And she looked at me, you know, and I said, tell them that you're Belichick's secretary, right? So she's yelling out the window, I'm Belichick's secretary, I'm Belichick's secretary. Right? So we're going really slow, and every time the parade stopped, I stopped.
Yeah.
And now she's like high-fiving people. People are handing her like roses and things. And this went on until I got to the end of the street and I could get away from the parade route. So I finally get to the airport and we're talking. She goes, that was wonderful. People were giving me stuff. I said, what do you mean? She said, some kid gave me a football. What? He didn't give you the football. You were supposed to autograph it and give it back. She stole some little kid's football. She's bringing it back to England. And she said, that was the best ride I ever had. I'm going to ask a favor of you all now. I've done almost 45, 50 minutes of comedy. I want to do a serious piece that's gonna take about 6 minutes, and I wanna tell you why. I have to give you some background. Last summer, I wanted to enter a storytelling competition. Has anyone here heard of the nonprofit national organization called The Moth? No? M-O-T-H, you have, right? M-O-T-H is not an acronym. It has something to do with moths being attracted to a flame. So they sponsor storytelling competitions all over the country. But they do more than that. They have cassettes, they have stories, they have workshops, they do all kinds of things. Anyway, I wanted to test my storytelling skills and enter a competition in Boston. And this is how it goes. The rules are, the story has to be about you. The story has to be true. And you get like 5 minutes. And every storytelling competition has a different theme. They give you like one word. So the time that I entered, the word was drive. And you could interpret it any way you wanted. You could have a story about driving, or you could tell a story about what motivates you, what drives you, right? So the disappointing thing about this was that I didn't get to tell my story. They only picked 10 names out of a hat, and I didn't know that going in. There were 23 people that signed up, and mine didn't get picked. And I believe there's a time and a place for everything. So I want to tell you my story, and this will be the first time I've told this story to an audience. Okay, now that you have the background. Let me just take a sip. This is a true story of how I survived a horrendous car accident back in 1981. And the title of my story is, I Shouldn't Be Here. I shouldn't be here because I survived a horrific car accident in the early 80s. I was driving a sporty little car, it's by myself. Late one summer night, I was coming home from work, and I'm on 95 South in the Norwood area. And I see in my rearview mirror headlights of something that was coming at me really fast from behind. I'm minding my own business doing my 60 or 65 in the center lane. And it was a truck, and it rammed me from behind. It rammed me from behind. I remember holding onto the steering wheel as the car was fishtailing. And the next thing I remember is I'm crawling on the grass on the median strip of Interstate 95 in the Norwood area. So there were plenty of witnesses, nobody got a plate number, and the truck did not stop, it was an 18-wheeler. Now back then, we had seatbelts, but there wasn't a lot to wear them. Some did, some didn't. I didn't wear mine at that particular time. The state police reconstructed the accident, and they told me that the first thing that happened was the sunroof that came down and knocked me out because I went limp. But then as the car started flipping over, it threw me out the hatchback. Now, I should have landed on the pavement of Interstate 95. Now, I'm not an overly religious person, but I certainly believe in a higher power. And I believe that as I was flying up in the air, that I was gently grabbed and placed on the grass of Median Strip because there was no other explanation for it. Yeah, I had some injuries, but nothing that bad. I recovered in a couple of weeks. So, you know, when something like that happens, what I do, I think, I have two questions that I ask. The first one is, and I think of it every once in a while, am I a good person? Have I led a good life? In other words, am I honoring this miracle, this thing that happened to me, that I didn't perish? Right? Because I think of like our 3 kids, what their lives would have been like without me, my wife all these years without me. So have I lived my life and have I done honor to that? And I'm going to reference a movie, very violent movie, Saving Private Ryan. If you've ever seen it, but the last scene is Matt Damon's character. He was Private Ryan. A bunch of men were sent to save him, and they pretty much all died. Saving him. So he, and his wife, and his kids and grandkids, they're at a military funeral, cemetery, I'm guessing in France, I guess. And he approaches the stones where these soldiers are buried, and he falls to his knees in the movie. And he asks his wife that question: have I led a good life? Am I a good person? And I ask myself that. The second question I ask myself is, well, why am I here? I think a lot of us ask that. Why did I survive? Why am I here?
Yeah.
And what is my purpose? And the way that I look at it, I am now going to reference Andrea Bocelli, the singer. He sings mostly in Italian, in different languages, but also sometimes in English. I don't know the name of the song, but there is a verse in this song where he sings in English, like the stars in the sky, we were born to shine. And maybe it's just that simple. And you can interpret the word shine any way you want. In its simplest form, it could be like doing a task, and when you get to the point where you say, oh, that's good enough, but if you put a little more effort into it, you could make it shine. Or when you're gazing into the eyes of someone you love, and I firmly believe that your eyes are windows into your soul, can they feel, spouse, child, grandchild, lifelong friend, whatever the case may be, can they feel the warmth from you, that you're real? That to me is to shine. So having said all that, I have some suggestions for everybody. If you have the chance to celebrate, celebrate. If you have a chance to sing, sing. If you have a chance to dance, dance. If you have a chance to laugh, laugh. If you have a chance to shine, shine. I shouldn't be here.
You are.
Thank you. You are the first audience to hear my story that I was going to submit for competition.
That was a story.
Excellent.
That was the story I was going to tell. I didn't get to tell it in front of 200 people.
Very good.
That was it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Same to social seniors, my friends, my new friends.
Yes.
I actually will be at the Raynham Senior Center again in the fall.
Oh,
good.
Yeah, we haven't arranged a date yet. Her name is Erin. Is that- Yeah, I've been invited back, so I will be back. And the name of my show, which is Alan Ames Thinks He's Funny, if you put that into the internet, you can see videos that I've done and newspaper articles. So it's Ames, A-M-E-S,
Yeah.
and Alan, just one L, because unfortunately my parents were poor. But if you put Alan Ames Thinks He's Funny into the internet, you'll see YouTube stuff about me. But I told Erin, when she promotes my program, my show won't be called Alan Ames Thinks He's Funny. It'll be called Alan Ames Still Thinks He's Funny. Well, you clapped for me, I'm going to clap for you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Patty, for asking me.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I have some business cards if anybody needs me for anything.